Good evening, L.C. Green here. Welcome to Gumbo Live. We're here at the Bread Basket, and like always, we want to thank the Bread Basket for letting us convert this place into our studio. And we're here today with a very special guest. We are here with the EUFAULA Chief of Police, Mr. Ralph Connor is the Chief of Police here at the City of EUFAULA, and we are here with him today. And as always, I'm not paying him to be on. He's not paying me to be on. No prearranged deals or anything has been made. You know what we do at Gumbo Live? We make it fun and we make it entertaining and informative. That's what we do. It's fun and informative. And I just want to thank you, Chief, for agreeing to be here with me to talk. And my producer told me that this is the first sit-down interview you have done since your suspension.
Well, administrative leave, not a suspension.
Oh, I'm sorry. Correct me. Administrative leave. I'm sorry. That's a big difference between the two.
There is.
Yes, sir.
One is disciplinary and one is not.
And we're going to talk about that too. Let's talk about that, Chief. And forgive me for using the wrong terminology. I was trying to pat myself on the back for having this sit-down interview with you.
I'm glad to be here, though. And yes, this is the first time I've gotten out and talked with someone. I'm very glad and honored that you asked me.
Thank you. Now let's do this, Chief. Let's do this here. Let's tell everybody who you are.
Okay.
I know from being in here. To me, it's very warm, and you had to go get your jacket. And that's the Southern California coming out of it.
It was a bit cold in here today.
Well, tell us about who you are, so our audience can know just who you are.
Well, I mean, you start with Southern California. I grew up in Southern California, but I think I left there when I was, say, about 18 years old. I was in the Air Force, went overseas. But anyways, I'm a little older than 18 right now. I know I only look 25, but I'm 58 years old.
Okay. All right.
Married to my wife June. We've been married 33 years. We have one daughter by the name of Ashton.
Who's very smart, by the way.
Smarter than me.
Very, very smart.
She's a veterinarian. She went to LSU.
There you go. That's the point. That's the point. You make good choices.
She went to LSU, and then she went to a veterinarian college in Auburn. They did not offer veterinarian studies in Alabama, University of Alabama, so we get that out of the way. People say, why didn't she go to Alabama?
That's it.
She is a veterinarian in the Nashville area and recently engaged to be married. And,
okay. So now she's in Nashville at this particular time.
Right.
And she's engaged to be married.
Right. 26 years old, and that's our only child.
Okay.
Very good girl, but married to my wife June for 33 years.
Okay. June is your wife?
June.
Okay. Yes. All right. Now, Chief, you come here from what state?
I've spent most of my adult life in Alabama.
Okay.
Outside of that, in the South, and then other than that, in Southern California.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So I was in the military. My first assignment was in the Southern California desert as well. So at age 18, I got sent overseas and really haven't been back to Southern California.
So Alabama is nothing new to you?
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
No, I think I've been in Alabama probably since 1976.
Okay.
And then I was hired by the Customs Service as an aircraft pilot to begin with. I fly aircraft as well.
Okay.
And my first assignment with them was in Miami, and then to New Orleans. I love the LSU connection.
Oh yeah. Go ahead on, man. You the best guest I had so far.
And I've spent probably a lot of the federal career, because I was a pilot. We spent a lot of our career in South and Central America, but on temporary assignments, not
sure.
permanent.
Now you still have current pilot license?
Yep.
Okay.
And an instructor's license. I don't fly right now, but I still have the license.
Okay. So if you ever needed to take off, you could.
I could, but it's kind of pricey.
Oh, all right. Now, Chief, let's do this. Let's do this here for the record. Let's go on and get a few things straight for the record. Let's start off. First of all, please accept my apology. Let's tell us the difference between administrative leave and suspension.
Okay.
Tell us the legal.
A suspension is generally something that applies to an employee that is involved in a disciplinary matter. They actually lose their status as a law enforcement officer. Your badge, your gun, everything's turned in. You're basically just without any status or anything while the matter is decided, if, you know, as to whether or not there's any violations that occurred or did not occur.
Okay.
It may involve criminal or administrative issues. In this case, you're referring to the recent incident in EUFAULA. Anyone involved in an incident where someone is seriously injured or killed is placed on administrative leave. Again, there's still a certified police officer, but you don't have an operational assignment.
Okay.
It's like you're placed on a long-term vacation. You don't have any administrative duties or responsibility.
Okay. Now, since there is two, there's administrative leave and suspension. Who determines? Is there? Let me ask you this question: are there some set rules that say this qualifies for suspension, this qualifies administrative leave? Is there some set rules? So you won't have to make the decision?
Every instance unique. If there's any indication up front of an employee doing something wrong or criminal, you would probably go to a suspension. If it's an incident that's being investigated, that employee would be put on administrative leave, sometimes allowed back in as administrative duties. Each incident or event is unique. It's generally up to that person's supervisor. My supervisor is the direct supervisor is the mayor.
Okay. All right. Now that was my next question. Okay. So now, one thing I'd like to do, Chief, I'd like to make sure everything is clear. When we talk about something, I'd like to make sure everything is clear.
Okay.
Because what I try to do, I don't deal with rumors, but I try to kill them.
Okay.
Okay. So now, you work for, if that's the correct terminology, the mayor.
The mayor is my immediate supervisor.
The mayor is your immediate supervisor. Nobody in between you and the mayor.
No.
Okay. Nobody in between you and the mayor.
No.
The mayor is your immediate supervisor.
Correct.
All right. So it was the mayor who made the decision to say you were going on administrative leave. Is that correct? Or is there a policy?
The mayor would have that responsibility. Certainly, there's other people within the city that he would consult, whether it's the city attorney, city council.
Right.
I mean, we do have responsibilities to the city council, but the mayor is basically the operational commander of the city for the day-to-day functions. So whether it's the horticulture department, the fire department.
Right. I understand. But now this help me with this now. This is what I'm trying to find out. Is there some guidelines that governs what should be done based on what was done? You understand my question?
I believe in this case, they probably deferred to the procedures that were in the past. There's been some lessons learned from various things from other departments that we're trying to bring forward to modernize. Because one of the moves I've been trying to do in the police department since I've been here is update and modernize the policies.
Okay.
Post-traumatic incident treatment of employees or department actions, that's one of the policies that's being modified.
Okay.
And was prior to that event, but because I'm involved, it's something that would be, you couldn't really apply to yourself without being self-interested, to be fair. So what was followed was, my understanding was policy in the past when there were other incidents.
Now, both of us ex-military.
Correct.
Both of us ex-military. One of us was in the real military and one of us was in, military. We'll let them figure that out. But look, in the military.
You were in the Coast Guard, right?
No, sir. No, sir. I'm in the real thing. But look, in the military we have SOP.
Correct.
Standard operating procedure.
And we do it at the police department.
And you do it in the police department.
Absolutely.
So this is what I'm trying to say. As a commander, you got your SOP.
Right.
If I do something, the first thing you do to find out how to deal with me is go to the SOP.
Generally. Yeah.
Generally, you go to the SOP and they say, well, for he stole a soda.
Right.
This is what we do with folks that steal sodas, right? So what I'm trying to get, and you may not know, I'm trying to see that when your name came up, and they had to make a decision how they was going to treat you. Was there a SOP that the mayor could look at and say, Mr. Mayor, when this happened, this is what you do to the chief? Do you know?
I don't know for sure.
Okay.
I'm assuming that they did it based on previous, the way things were handled previously.
Okay, all right. Okay.
I mean, it's kind of a modern progressive thing for cities to start having policies that deal with traumatic incidents. And that's what we're trying to do, is modernize the police department and bring it forward.
Okay.
So I really would believe that they deferred to the way things were handled previously.
Okay. Because see, this is what I'm trying to get our audience to see, and I may be off base, because like you said, you don't know, and if you don't know, I still don't know. You follow what I'm saying? But I don't believe something this critical is left in one person's hands to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I may be wrong. Let's talk about something else, Steve.
Well, I mean, the mayor would have the authority, but again, we do have a city council. There is a system of checks and balances, but the intent is for the action or the policy today is really to make sure there's accountability for whatever's being looked at.
Okay.
In this case, there was a traumatic incident that resulted in someone losing their life.
Right.
The proper thing to do to make sure that there's no impropriety, something being tainted, something being manipulated, the employees, one of them me in this case, are basically kind of isolated from the operational side of things, so that there is no manipulation, tainting, whatever, so that to make sure there is accountability to the process and to the community, which is also the reason we would bring another agency in to look at it, so that it's not us investigating us.
Okay. Now, good point. You were removed
Operationally.
from operation of the process. You were removed.
I mean, I'm still an employee. I'm still,
still getting your check.
Still getting paid. Still, but I'm not operationally in command of the police department.
Okay.
And I knew that from the start. Captain Watkins, extremely talented. Good man. From the start, I think I even talked to him saying, you need to expect that you're going to be in charge of the police department while this is looked at. And I'm going to stand by and make sure that nothing is done wrong. I guess the military perspective, you create what's called a sterile environment.
That's right.
Where you make sure everything is done. If there's evidence that you're not involved in the processing of it, you're not involved in anything. You're basically one of the participants. So you back off and wait for the investigation. You don't conduct it yourself, and you turn it over to someone else, and you respect their position.
You're saying a lot of good stuff that we need to hear. Okay. Now let me ask you this question. And when you were removed from the process, that means that you were not at the station. That's how we find
There's the
emergency department.
Fire department trying to get their plug in.
Yeah. we had the chief. He should have said it all in. But
Really, they didn't get enough the first time.
Yeah, that's right.
I was not operationally involved in the running of the police department from the incident that happened forward.
Okay.
I certainly still had keys to the building, things like that. I do have files, including personal files, tax files, for example. It's tax time coming up.
Sure.
Where if I had to go down to the police department, I had access to those. But generally, day to day, I think while I was on administrative leave, I might have gone down to the police department 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
But to retrieve
Sure,
things like that.
sure.
The investigation, because it was handled by an outside agency, all of that was maintained outside of the police department.
So if you went up there, still nothing.
Well, and you don't go there to discuss. Again, you respect the fact that there is an investigation, that other people are involved, and you don't go down there and try and market or manipulate.
Right.
It's
You know what I'd have done, G? What I would have done, if they'd have told me on Wednesday that I was on administrative leave, I'd have been in Hawaii on Friday. Yes, sir.
It's part of the process. It's certainly a very stressful part of the process that you're taken from your operational world. From being in the military or law enforcement, you know that you have an operational side of your life.
That's right.
And your family side of your life. When you're in the military, you don't go home to the wife at night and say, hey, guess what we did in the field all day and everything. It's something you discuss with your unit members.
That's right.
Just when you're at home, you don't bring that to the unit. So basically you're removed from one half of your life.
Right.
Kind of put out in the wilderness a little bit. And you would rather be there doing the day-to-day things with your coworkers and your your unit.
Yeah, and I understand that very well.
So it's not really a pleasant thing. But,
It's not,
but
and-
it is anytime someone is hurt, for any reason, hurt of any degree in law enforcement or military, it's terrible. You hate that it happens, but it's part of the world.
Sure.
You just wish it would never happen, and you hate that it happens to anyone.
Right. Now, I was not taking lightly the administrative leave.
Right.
I was not taking
No,
that lightly, but I like to have fun, and saying I'd go to Hawaii, yeah, I probably would go to Hawaii now, but I'm not taking that lightly. And one point you just made, and what we're seeing right now in the military, we're seeing the suicide rate and stuff like that going up, for the simple reason, like you say, you try not to take it home, but if you're not there to be able to talk it back and forth to your comrades, you know, that makes it real hard.
Sure.
Talking back and forth to your comrades, you know, that makes it real hard.
Sure. I mean,
so,
if you think of people that you've known in the military that were involved in, let's say, our people from World War II era, they'll discuss it with other veterans from
Right,
World War II,
right,
but
right,
generally,
right.
My father was a World War II vet. Never really heard much about it. We knew what service he was in and
Sure,
basically
sure,
did, but
sure.
never any of the details.
right, and that's just like Vietnam. Vietnam veterans can only
Same
really
place.
sit down and talk to Vietnam
Same
veterans. So I appreciate that. Let's talk about this, Chief. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about background check.
Okay.
Okay? Let's talk about background check. Did you do your own background check?
No.
All right. All right. So
I am fully aware of what's in it.
okay. Okay. And let make sure before we get to talking about background check that you never lost your clearance.
No.
Okay. At no point in your career have you lost your.
No.
Okay. So let's talk about this. If something came up in your background after you got hired, that would not be your fault. That means whoever did the background check.
Well, I mean, there's...
Tell us background check.
Backgrounds look for derogatory or character information.
Okay.
If there's nothing derogatory or poor character or disqualifying, probably won't show up. I mean, if you look at a background, in my case, 35 years of law enforcement, during that time, 25 years of military, so I kind of had a parallel career. There's a lot that happens. Everything from overseas assignments to stateside assignments, from being a law enforcement officer where you see a lot of very violent situations to where you see very rewarding, happy situations. You know, the rescue of a child. Over 35 years, there's a lot of observations and there's a lot of personal involvement in things. I mean, certainly as a law enforcement officer, it's rare that you get involved in having to be involved in situations where you have to even physically handle someone. Most arrests, contacts, whatever, resolve peacefully and cooperatively, and that's great. But occasionally they don't, and you handle them according to process and procedure.
Okay.
If there is a situation where someone gets seriously injured or hurt, the firing of a weapon, that's always investigated. It's always investigated by someone outside of
Right.
your realm, so that the findings are credible and reliable. In some cases, depending on the level of injury, they may be presented to a grand jury who has the opportunity to determine whether or not the actions were reasonable in determining whether or not there should be any criminal case or criminal charges.
Let's stay on background. Okay. You basically told us, but tell us one more time. What's the purpose of a background check, and what do you look for in a background check?
You're determining someone's suitability for a job,
Okay.
based on character, and whether or not there was any criminal issues, any financial issues. Domestic violence could be disqualifying. General unsuitability as far as your reputation for, let's say, being involved with felons, drug activity, whatever things that would basically wreck your credibility.
Right.
But mostly backgrounds are going to look at, in the police department sense,
Okay.
whether it's a police chief or a new police officer.
Okay, let's talk about
We do
it.
various database checks on every candidate to see if they have any previous arrests, if there's any previous convictions, anything derogatory. That's reported forward. In my case, there are none.
Okay. Chief, let me ask you this. let me ask you this. From my little research I do, I always try to do a little research before I do a program. My understanding is, and you can correct me with this, that one of the things you look for when the police, regardless of what level, chief or patrolman or you just want to hire, one of the things you look for that they wouldn't necessarily look for in my background is that if you ever had to fire your weapon in a line of duty. Is that correct?
Not specifically unless it's derogatory.
Unless it's derogatory. Not define what would be derogatory.
Well, something where a weapon was fired in violation of policy or the law. Again, being in law enforcement or let's say military. If you're going for a military promotion, and in the military I was an officer and we had promotion boards, you would look at if someone was firing a weapon on duty, that's, again, it's terrible if anyone has to get hurt, but that's the line of duty. If someone's out there being reckless, in violation of the rules of warfare, the code of conduct, that would be derogatory. If there's nothing derogatory, it's going to show up. There's events that happen in your career that are you certainly learn from them. Training and experience. The shooting is a terrible experience. You certainly gain training experience from being involved in something, but unless you're out there being found to be reckless or in violation of the law or abusing your authority, being abusive, anything like that, it's not something that specifically shows up. No more than rescuing a child is going to show up.
Right.
Which is a very...
That would show up.
But it doesn't show up. It's just part of your general training experience.
Okay. Let's do this then, Chief. Let's talk about this for just a moment. We ain't going to stay on this very long because it was in the paper. And I think that the Tribune or any other paper has a responsibility to make sure whatever they print, that they print facts.
Sure.
You follow what I'm saying? Now it got on the wire, got on the paper that you were involved 30-some years ago in a shooting in Montgomery. Could you briefly?
Well, 30 years ago, and I'm 58 now, so I was probably 27 or almost 27. It was about 30 years ago. This was an incident where we were looking for a young man that had escaped from a local jail.
Black male?
He was a black male in this case.
Okay.
Although that's outside of physical description, that again doesn't pertain.
Yeah. But now let me say this too, why I said that. Because by law, the hospitals and law enforcement are allowed to describe patients or suspect by race. That's one of the few incidents that you can do that. So I think it's very important that we
Well, as a term of demographics, I mean, if someone robs a store, or in this case, if someone escapes from a jail and he's a black male, it would not make sense to respond to someone looking for another ethnicity.
Right. So that's why it's important.
It's part of the physical description.
Right.
In this case, it was a black male.
Okay.
We were called to respond to a place that was kind of a problematic neighborhood, but that this escapee was supposed to be standing in front of this nightclub. He had escaped from one of the local counties for armed robbery, and I believe he was a state prisoner, but in a county jail. When we arrived there's another young black male, very similar in physical description. Their pictures side by side. They would appear to be cousins, brothers, whatever. He sees us and takes off running. I think the paper back then had quoted the police chief, who is now deceased, that he said it was a tragic mistake. I don't know if he made that or if it was taken out of context.
Right.
The mistake we made was we thought he was the escapee when he took off running, so we started to chase him. The mistake this young man makes, he is a convicted felon on parole carrying a gun, and he thinks we're after him, so he takes off running.
Now you say we. You keep saying we.
Well, there was more than one person.
Okay. So you wasn't alone. It wasn't something you was doing by yourself.
No.
Okay. Go ahead. All right.
So the mistake is we think he's someone else. The mistake he makes is he thinks we're after him, and neither of those are correct.
Right.
But he takes up running, so he does draw, and so we start chasing him. As we're chasing him, he does draw a firearm and start turning, and he was shot once, he kept on running into a housing project area. The foot chase went on. When he eventually stopped, another vehicle that was arriving saw him running across the parking lot. I think bumped him, but I believe the article says he was run over. He was not. Anyways, he stopped, but while he's running, he had tossed the gun. After the event, very volatile situation. I've used the analogy like kicking a fire ant bed. How all the ants boil up and they're wanting to sting someone. No safe opportunity to do any checking or looking for a firearm, so no firearm was recovered. We were able to safely get ourselves and the young man out of the area. He was shot once, and he did not expire. He lived for how many years I do not know. I'm told that he died later, but I'm not involved with
two things. How we doing on the sound with the chief? He's very low voice.
But I mean, he did not die in relation to that.
Okay, that's what I need.
I was told he died of a disease
later on,
several years later.
Okay,
he did have a long criminal history after that.
Okay, you did shoot him.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but you did not kill him.
No, sir.
One more time.
No, it did not.
You did not kill him.
No, sir.
You shot the young man.
He was shot once
because he thought that y'all was after him. And y'all thought that was the suspect that you was looking for. Like you explained that very well.
That's the reason for the chase.
Right.
But the shot occurs because of the threat he presents with the firearm.
No.
I mean, if there's no firearm, the chase would have gone.
Right.
Maybe he got away, maybe not.
Right.
But if we resort to that level of force, it's not so much event driven by, again, he's running. It's driven by the fact that there's an imminent deadly threat that we have to respond to protect ourselves or someone else.
Where was he shot in relation to his body?
He was hit, once in the lower left side.
Side?
Well, side back. On the other side, but about there.
Okay.
And it went diagonally across him and came out the right front. So the forensic of that would show that he was turning and started to stoop.
That's the two things I wanted to clarify. He was not shot in the back. He was turning with a weapon, and he was not killed at that particular time. He was not killed. He lived a long time with a long history and died from some kind of disease.
I'm told.
Okay.
Again, it's nothing I've personally checked on because I'm not involved in tracking the young man. It's probably credible, but I really don't know.
Well, okay, we through with that. I just wanted to put that on the record. We hear you say
it comes out recently with news stories, and one of them grossly misinformed or exaggerated.
Right.
And so rumors do need to be set straight.
Sure.
It's something that you never want to be involved in. If you do something like this, it's. Believe me, it's even. I think even the soldiers overseas in the Middle East, they don't day to day want to shoot someone, but if they have to defend themselves or each other or whatever, it becomes the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
But nothing anyone would want to do.
I don't care.
And over career, it's a very rare event, but it does happen.
Right. I don't care how well trained you are. Once you pull that trigger, it's a whole different ball game.
It is, but you can take 35 years and plug it into one incident, or you can take 35 years and plug it into all of the successes. And I mentioned saving a child. I do have an event like that in my career. There's years and years of working with people of all cultures, regardless of the ethnicity, the financial, whatever. It's not race against race, black against white, or my sexuality against someone else's or whatever. It's basically community defending itself against a criminal act. That's all it is. It doesn't mean that person is, that you're judging that person, that he's been good or bad or whatever. At that time and moment, that a threat exists that pushes things to that level where that's the only thing you can do to actually allow yourself and others or other innocent people to go home alive.
Okay, let's go. I want to back up just one moment, this one last time on the background check, because it was stated in the paper and at the city council meeting. A statement was made about who did the background check, and nobody on the council said no, that was not the person who did it, and It was in the paper, and at the city council. I was there when this lady approached the city council and said that one of the councilmen told her that Mr. Moore Erkins did the background check when it came to you. So I got two questions. Number one, who determines who does the background check, and what qualifications must I have in order to do a background check for such an important job as the chief of police?
I think my understanding, again,
Okay.
is that any police candidate, any law enforcement candidate is going to go through a law enforcement background, which is really a query of all the various databases that would show whether or not you have any criminal background, anything like that. Beyond that, the employment background is going to be a product of the city personnel department. The city personnel director is Kelly Tradwick. How and what she would do, I do know that she contacted some of my references, if not all of them, would have looked at employment history, background history, anything like that. Colonel Erkins, Mo Erkins, I know there was a civilian participation or community participation on the group that was looking for a police chief, and I think the personnel department, the council, and the mayor wanted representation from all of the community to make sure that someone was found that meets the community's needs. Colonel Erkins was one of the representatives on the search committee. Certainly he would have had access to a resume that I put in. The interviews that were conducted by that committee, Colonel Erkins was part of, but Colonel Erkins, my understanding, would not have had anything to do with an actual background investigation. That would be a product of the personnel.
Okay, now for the record, I put a call in to Ms. Tradwick in order to clarify this statement. Again, at the city council meeting, when this statement was made, no person, matter of fact, the lady pointed out, the councilman that told her that Mr. Morrikins actually did the background check. And nobody has, to this point, ever denied that. But now, to your understanding, Mr. Erkins simply represented the community? Is that correct?
He would have been one of the people representing the community in the search for the police chief. I mean, there were others, but he was one of them. And Colonel Erkins is a very distinguished
sure,
person.
no question about that. No question about that. I wouldn't dare question that. But what I would question is that, and you may not know this, when somebody said that they're representing the community, and I'm part of the community, I think that I ought to have some say-so who represent the community. You follow what I'm saying?
Well,
so I don't know how this committee was put together. Do you know?
And I don't know whether it would have been a product of the personnel department putting it together, or whether the committee was appointed by various members of the city council or the mayor.
You don't know that?
I do not know. But,
okay.
From being involved in previous experiences where I was part of hiring someone, we do look for people that represent the community. A lot of times it is a member of a city council that appoints someone.
Okay.
In this case, I do.
We don't know, yeah, and that's probably not even fair. Actually, I think we need to go back to personnel and answer that question.
The committee, from memory, of course, Colonel Erkins stands out because he's just a very distinguished man.
Sure.
We both have military
Sure.
Part of the committee, there were some council members on the committee, but it's, from my memory, it seemed to be a very good, professional cross-section of the community.
Okay. All right. And again, maybe I shouldn't burden you with that question, but when you say something, it triggered this thought in my mind, because see, one of the problems that we've been having, we as people for years and years, somebody would step out and say that they're representing.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And I grew up, I was born in 51, so I mean, that's all the 60s, and I grew up with all that, and then I was always amazed how somebody would step out and say, well, I'm representing so-and-so, I'm representing all the men that's 6 foot tall. And then you wonder, well,
I mean,
where this come from? You know what I'm saying?
Certainly, in some occasions, there's nothing but representation of self-interest or agendas.
Right.
I do think the city, and of course, again, you're asking me to describe the process where I was the successful candidate.
Right.
But my impression is that it was a very fair process, open to opened up for questions. I know the meetings where there were interviews were open to the public. I don't believe hardly anyone showed up.
Yeah.
They were welcome to.
Yeah.
Again, here comes the fire department again.
Yeah. They busy today. Look like they're coming over here, Chief.
Well, the food is good.
Oh, they turn around.
And we are at the bread basket.
We are at the bread basket. That's right, and we thank them for that. We thank them for that.
I mean, in regards to me, I think it was certainly a fair and open process. And though the process is over and I have been hired, I've always welcomed anyone that wants to come by and drink coffee or talk or whatever. I'm pretty open to people. I don't set myself apart as well, I'm better or I'm here and someone else is there. I think everyone is equal across the board. We may have different responsibilities, but I've tried to keep open. I mean, I've met you at the council meetings way before any.
That's right.
Really shortly after I was hired.
Let's talk about that, because one thing that I have observed is that since your vacation, I used to see you here, the bread basket. I used to see you at McDonald's, and is it the load that I have not seen you since then? I mean, is it the load, or are you deliberately staying away?
Well, during that time, when you're on administrative leave, but you're expected also, you've been named as a police chief. Yeah, it's quite stressful. But I also didn't want to be somewhere where I'm perceived as trying to manipulate outcome, politic, like vote for me. And
right.
Tried to respect the process and just kind of stay low key.
But now that you're back on the job, can we see you again at McDonald's and at the bread basket?
I do like to get out with people. I know when I first got hired, I was, and up until last October, I've been trying to go around to different businesses, different churches.
Sure.
And without regard to the ethnicity or the culture. If someone is willing to welcome me, I like being welcome.
Yeah, it was any given day we could see you riding around.
Sure, I mean, I like being out with people. I want people to know that the police department is open. It's not an agency to just work for the city. It's supposed to be something that's part of the city, part of the community. We are doing things like trying to have additional outreach. I have officers trying to make extra contacts with people. A contact doesn't mean necessarily writing a speeding ticket. It could be talking to someone that's doing some yard work. How you doing? So type thing. So,
I hope
riding around and getting to know people.
I hope you be successful with that.
I'm trying. There's with this. I mean, you well know it because we've talked about it.
Sure.
There's people out there that want to paint a different picture.
Sure.
Most people have never met.
Sure. And the only thing I ever talk to you about, in a sense of complaining, is that 90% of your office, and I might be a little high, will pass by people won't even speak to. And you remember we talked at that conversation. You can wave at them, and I mean, I like your concept. Talk to me when and it don't hurt nobody the way you do it. I mean, you speak to people when you pass by.
You get a little more senior. You get a little older. You said you're born in 61?
No, 51.
50, okay.
Yeah.
You're telling us wrong here.
Look like I could be born in 61. Come on, Chief.
You look magnificent. But I mean, you get a little older, you get a little more mature.
Sure.
You smooth out a little bit. I think as kids, probably the military or law enforcement experience, your military experience, you feel like you're invincible and bulletproof, and you're all full of yourself. You're a little bit older, you realize that there's, you're there for other people. I do have a lot of experience, but my experience is not for the sake of saying, look at me. I don't run around and say, wow, here I am. I like doing what I can to apply to other people. Come to a community like this to try and take a career and pass it on to the next generation. A huge part of my philosophy is the military leadership. And again, yourself too, because I know we can talk the same, and we have.
Sure.
A huge part of your job is to train the generation behind you, to train your replacements, to make sure that what you learn is not lost when you leave, that it's passed on. Within my experience in law enforcement, I've worked for not just the city of Montgomery in the past, but I've worked for city, state, federal, military, and county law enforcement agencies. I've worked in foreign and domestic assignments, and it's quite a diversity of experience.
Sure, sure.
And outside of law enforcement, I've worked in the aviation world and the Marine world. When I was kidding about Coast Guard,
Sure, oh, yeah.
My initial time I was in the Air Force. I
Okay.
spent 4 years in the Air Force.
Okay.
A good experience, but I was very young. Don't know if I liked it.
Yeah, you did.
I think looking back, it was good, and I was
Sure.
treated good. But when I was young, I was like, I don't know, that's
Yeah,
quite a lot of
yeah.
control.
Yeah. Look, let me ask you this, T. Let me ask you this, for the sake of our time. How every meeting we go to, we talk about how short we are, so far as officers. Number one, tell me how short are you number wise, and number two, with 3 questions in one. Okay, how short are you number wise?
Okay.
What must we do to retain more officers? And then give me an overall evaluation of your staff.
Okay, there's always going to be some degree of shortage because we are competing with other cities and departments that have a different tax base. They offer different pay and benefits, but it's not just pay related. A lot of times it's related to the work conditions, and we are trying to upgrade those. To retain people, we're trying to get involved in better training, better equipment, recognition of responsibility, and make it a good place and a family place. Police officers were authorized, right now 38 officers. We're down 2 or 3 right now, and then we've got at least 2 or 3 on deployment with the military.
Right.
So we're down a little bit. We make up for it by overtime and things like that, which actually is a greater strain on the budget than having that officer here. Because while, when someone's on overtime, the pay rate changes. But it causes us to have to move people around to meet the needs of various operational needs, whether it's investigative or patrol or just various projects, the pilgrimage when it comes up, and we're having to fill a lot of that with overtime. Couple that with the fact that we send people away for training, have to backfill those slots with overtime because the people aren't there to normally backfill. So we are operating short because of just attrition through people going to other jobs and from military deployments, things like that. Not just on the law enforcement side, dispatch, communications. We are the communications hub for the entire 911 for Barber County. We have 12, I believe I got the number right, 12 communications officers and 1 supervisor that are authorized there. I think we're 1 short, maybe 2 communications officer. And then
At the center, at the 911
right.
center.
And we just had Sergeant Bobby Vickers just retired. So we have someone that's going to take over his position. But that person is also not only working his position, but they're also working a normal communication shift. So it creates a shortfall there. Corrections, people to work in the city jail. I think we're down 1 there. We may be right on par, but we're always transitioning through people. I know we have at least 1 person in corrections that wants to transfer over to being a police officer.
Okay. Talk to me. That's what I want to talk about. I'm concerned about patrol.
Okay.
Is the shortfall in the patrol area?
Well, if we strip something to cover another assignment, we leave patrol intact where the shifts are always covered. It may mean that some of those officers are getting extra overtime. Some of them like it, some may not. It may mean running short in an investigative assignment, where instead of having so many investigators, we got 1 less because we leave 1 person in patrol.
On the average shift, on the average shift, how many folks are patrolling? On the average shift, if you know, on the average shift, how many folks can we expect that's out there actually patrolling the city of EUFAULA?
4 to 6 is normal.
4 to 6.
Depending on the shift and the conditions and the expected, again, like New Year's Eve might be different than just tonight where it's nothing eve. You could probably run a little bit short if you needed to, or cut someone some slack to take a few hours off if they've been scheduled for overtime to work with their schedule. On New Year's Eve might be a different thing. On New Year's Eve, you not only have patrol working, but you have other people coming out on overtime, or people like myself who are salary that try and get out and supplement. So that we don't run short, there's no loss of capability to respond to calls of people.
So if we used to, a lot of time what we talk about is that, I used to sit on my porch. I don't live too far from here, and I can see an officer pass. Sometimes I sit on my porch now all night. Don't never see nobody. And so I thought that maybe because it was short on patrol.
I get some of the same thing. Again, I was on, as you call it, vacation for a little while, and
Yeah. With no disrespect.
No, I know.
With no disrespect.
But I mean, I could see who's kind of passing and not, whether or not they're leaving the main road, going up and down EUFAULA Avenue on 431, and are they actually getting out of the neighborhoods? That tends to be more of an operational demand that the shift supervisors get on top of and try and get their people to start patrolling the neighborhoods. And they do, but again, when you're young, you want to be where the action is.
Sure.
Is there action on EUFAULA Avenue, or is there action on Sleepy Street?
Yeah.
But Sleepy Street needs to be patrolled, and the people there need to know
Right.
So, and trying to the force multiplication, again, a military term, but we're trying to not only use patrol, but we're trying to extend the assets we have. If detectives, or myself, if transitioning the city, going from my office to here for this interview, or the detectives going from their office out to do an interview somewhere on the south side of town. While they're en route, expected to listen to the radios. If there's any calls, we're expected to assist the patrol, or if they see something, to take action or get patrol involved, so that we're opening up. We're also trying to initiate concepts with other departments, the fire department, the water department, or city streets, whoever, that if they're out there and see something, I think corporations have called it fleet watch, where the other people out there at least know to be good witnesses, get information on what they see, tag numbers, descriptions, whatever, and call it into us and just help us being eyes and ears. We like the public to do that as well. It's certainly easier to do it in city departments because we see them all the time, and I see their department heads see each other at least weekly. So it's a little easier in-house, but we'd like to extend it across the community. And we like working with the community, but we tend to go to the focal points, the churches, places where you get a lot of people that you can communicate with at once. But it's, we're 38 people in a town of close to 14,000, 38 officers, 38. It's stretched, but it's multiplied greatly if people increase what they're capable of.
Let me tell the listener audience what you have agreed. The breadbasket brought this proposal to you, and you readily agreed, and we calling it coffee and donuts with the chief. And I want the audience to know that we brought this proposal to the breadbasket, or they brought this proposal, and you agreed. And what we want to do one Wednesday a month, we want the community to come, and we're going to provide coffee and donuts with them right here at the breadbasket.
Okay.
And you agreed to be here to meet the community, and you didn't hesitate when we told you our idea. You jumped on it, and I think it's only fair to let the audience know that you didn't even hesitate.
No, I enjoy things like that. Prior to the October event, I attended every city council meeting. City council meetings are great places to meet department heads. Most department heads are there unless they're scheduled somewhere else. It's a great place to talk offline with something. Let's say if the horticulture department, if you like what they're doing and want to talk to their supervisor. If you think they need to do something else and want to talk with their supervisor. An example with me, strangely enough, the POW-MIA flag that's by the gazebo. I think it's Veterans of Foreign War came up to me at one of the council meetings and said, someone keeps stealing the flag, which is, to me, is pretty outrageous.
Yeah.
Why someone would steal that
right,
flag.
I didn't know that.
And this was, again, several months ago. It was the fire department again. But within the week, I went to one of the other departments, and we provided the flag out of our department funds, which flag is not that expensive.
Sure.
But the street department, the day we gave them the flag, they got one of the flag cleats, and we put it higher up on the pole where it takes a bucket truck to raise and lower that flag.
All right.
If someone wants it, not that it's theft-proof, but they got to want it.
They got to work, yeah.
But things like that.
Sure.
It's an offline solution. Doesn't need resolutions or anything like that.
Work harder.
If you can meet the people and actually be part of the solution and not part of the problem.
Right.
Cliches, but it's very true.
But now let me say this, Chief. Let me say this. The coffee and donuts with the chief is not a complaint section. We're not going to use that for complaint. People that use the right channel. But what we got in mind, let me tell you what we got in mind. We got in mind people coming in, saying good morning and, you know, and.
Well, come be part of the
Zip shit.
solution. You know, if someone has a complaint, you know, a legitimate complaint or concerns, I'll never not listen to that. I may invite them to come to the office where we have a little more privacy.
Right, right, that's what we're talking about.
What it should not be is a debate. You know,
Right.
Like, you know, various incidents in the past or whatever. It's not time to debate that. We're trying to move forward, be positive, tell people how they can support the community, how they can help us support the community. If they think we did something good, I'd love to hear about that. If you think we did something wrong, we are accountable for what we do. If we do something wrong, we'll own it, we'll fix it, and we'll move forward.
Okay.
But we're not going to stagnate on it.
Okay, all right, that's good. And what we had in mind is being able to, so that there's nobody in the city of Eufaula or Barbara County, really, that can never, that say that I don't know the chief. I don't know what he look like. I have never said nothing to him. He ain't never spoke to me.
Well,
We're gonna change it. We're gonna have coffee and
Everyone
donuts.
has the opportunity. Whether or not everyone takes advantage of it, I certainly understand it's you know, not always possible to do. But I am very open. I like being around people. I've never turned anyone away from my office. I'm even going to say some of the you know, the latest trend that are out there on social media and talking whatever they're talking. If any of them want to come by and meet me, I won't turn them away. I would never hesitate to help someone. If someone's out there giving me the worst trashing you can imagine, and there's probably a few that have gone out there. And, you know, if I saw them in trouble, I would not hesitate to help them. And they're welcome to come by, but it's not to debate. But if they want to meet me, say good morning, whatever, I have no problem with that. I'm not going to be mean to anyone. It's
Let's say this.
I mean, I think it's my responsibility to make sure that I also represent the community.
Let's say this too, Chief, and I must say this for the record. I must say this for the record. The chief agreed to talk about everything that he could legally talk about. He said anything that I can legally talk about, and I think you did that, and I appreciate that.
Well, there's some things that are still pending.
Sure,
It would not be appropriate to.
and folks tuning in, but some things we just can't talk about, and I'm not here to, and you're not here to argue your case. I'm not here to argue your case. I'm just here for to talk to you.
Just to get to know each other.
That's right, and let the audience know. According to Bright House, we get over, what they say, 90% of the county has access to this program. So they got a chance to get a chance to see you and get a chance to know who you are, and you invited all of us to come and talk to you.
Sure.
I know I personally appreciate it. And we don't deal. And there was no, the only ground rules was I can't talk about something that's legally happening right now. That's the only ground rules. Am I right, Chief?
Sure. Well,
that's the only ground rules.
The ground rules apply to me too.
Yeah, you know, right. And so, but you know, a lot of times folks say, well, you didn't ask this question, ask that question. Well, I know what we can't talk about, so I ain't even asking you what we can't talk about.
But you know, if someone says, well, I heard, usually when you hear a comment that starts with I heard or I read on something.
Right.
You know, maybe ask those people, have you actually met the man? You know, if someone comes in and says, well, Reverend Green's this, have you met him? I have. And it's a good
whole this ball game.
Sure. It's a whole new ball game.
Yeah.
You know, the only thing I've asked people to do, regardless of any incident, is don't take my side, don't take the police department side, don't take side A, side B, whatever. Listen to the facts, take an honest side. If we're on that side, great. If we're not, hold us accountable. That applies today.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this, Chief. I'm gonna say this, and I'm not gonna speak for you. Okay, I'm not gonna speak for you. But I'm gonna say this.
But we may not disagree, so let's hear it.
Okay, I'm gonna say what my observation has been from talking to you, not only today but in the past. That's you got a lot of remorse. You got a lot of remorse. Now, some things I've been trained to pick up, and you got a lot of remorse. You got a lot of remorse. You got a lot of. If I could say sorry, I'd say I'm sorry in you, and I picked that up, and I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. And I think it's only fair that our listening audience and those who are viewing us know that.
You always wish you could do more for someone. I think there was a Colonel Hal Moore from the We Were Soldiers movie. People know the movie, they don't know Colonel, or it was General Hal Moore when he retired. A news reporter, as Dan Rather, asked him, now that this movie has been made, don't you feel better knowing that you've done all you can do for your men? He about blew up on Dan Rather. He said, why would anyone want to feel they've done all they can do?
Yeah, yeah.
There's no commander, no parent, no one in a position of responsibility that thinks, my job's done, see you later. You're always sorry for the fact that you couldn't do more to help someone, to do something for someone, for whether it's a person, a community, whatever. And it's sad that whenever something happens that didn't work out the way you wished it could have, yeah, that's always sad.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Chief, we getting ready to go. My little dime is about up. They can start throwing stuff at us here in a minute if we don't get out of here. Tony's on overtime. They don't pay him for overtime. Tony, we thank you very much, and we thank the Bread House a lot. But I'm gonna give you the last word right after I do this. You're watching Gumbo Live. We're here with the EUFAULA Police Chief. We thank you for watching. Keep on watching Gumbo Live. I'm gonna give you an opportunity to say whatever you'd like to say before we leave.
I would be here Wednesday whether you had donuts or not. If you like donuts. No, we're I do want to be part of the community. We want to add something and bring something to the community, not take away from it. There's always challenges. We do run a very honest, credible, and accountable operation, and it's very open. We do try and be transparent. That's why we do things like meetings like this, or the Wednesday morning meeting, being at city council meetings. I'm very accountable. I'm very open. If anyone wants to meet me, you're more than welcome to come by. If you want to call before you come by, it's more of a guarantee that I'll be there, but I know you came by the other day. And,
Sure.
I was in and I didn't say, well, who is it and can he come back?
Right.
I think I met you halfway to the
You sure
door
did.
and said, come on
You sure
back.
did, and I appreciated that.
I'm very open to
appreciate
people.
that.
I didn't grow up in a culture of segregation or discrimination. I think discrimination is about the highest form of ignorance and hate you can do. I don't believe in it.
I agree with you there now.
And I don't tolerate it. And the things that we've been doing at the police department, our standards, everything we've put out has tried to make it very public that we're open to everybody. Community representation we definitely want. We're hoping to recruit, like I said, we have some openings. I would love to see a greater representation of the entire community, a whole cross-section. Right now we're not. We do have some, but minority recruitment would be a blessing. To get some qualified, talented young people in there, or old people, in there to represent the the
Very good.
Again,
So glad to hear you say that, 'cause that's one of the issues.
come meet me or
I
talk to someone who has met me. You'll know that what you're seeing today is not an act, it's how I am every day.
Good. Now, one more thing, Chief. You're here for the long run. We are not going to have to look for another chief no time soon. Can
hope so.
Can you tell us that? From your
Well, I mean, I did come here as a career move. I was a customs agent / customs pilot and a Coast Guard officer. Threw the Coast Guard in there. I retired from both of them. I wanted to go to a smaller community where I could actually be part of the community and contribute to it. Back in October, something happened that, like I said, is just sad. Someone got hurt, someone died in that incident.
Sure.
It's something you would never wish to have happen. People ask me about it. People come to me and said, "We're praying for you." The only thing I've ever said is thank you very much, but please also pray for the family of that young man because they've experienced the loss.
You told me that.
Regardless.
Sure did. Yes. Sure did.
You just want to be there for people, but sometimes the job does involve a tragic circumstance, but the job is to protect the community.
I always say this, Chief. I always tell my listening audience is that if they have any question for any guest that ever come on Gumbo Live, that they can drop their question off here at the bread basket. And so if anybody got any questions for the Chief that you think we did not cover and that he might be able to address, if you drop it off here, I can assure you I will get it to the Chief. And if we get enough questions, we have to bring you back on and let you ask them on the air.
Anytime.
Okay?
I mean, it's hard to cover so many years with
Sure.
short time.
Sure. But
more than happy to.
But again, I want to say to you that we appreciate it, and I hope your daughter is smart enough to marry somebody from Louisiana. I know you say she's engaged.
He's from Montgomery.
Oh, Lord, God bless the child. Thank you, Chief.
And also an Auburn graduate.
Oh, Lord, God bless. You can't talk out of that, Chief?
You know, if you had to pick someone, if Daddy had to pick someone for his daughter, his little baby today, he'd have been on the list. He's a fine,
All right.
He's a fine young man.
Because I was getting ready to give you a PhD in smarts, but I don't know now.
He's a fine young man.
Good, good.
I welcome him to my family.
All right, Chief. Thank you so very much.